Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me here again on another edition of Let's Talk, and I'm so happy to be here with you all. And today, my guest is four-time Emmy winner, host of Entertainment Tonight, journalist, one and only Nischelle Turner. Thank you so much for joining me here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. We all have been in this crazy time, and social media has been so prevalent for us to share stories. And through Let's Talk, it's part of my therapy to be here and talk to people about different journey I have gone through, whether in fashion, in food, and bring out different stories that other people can relate to, and along the way heal ourselves.
Mhm.
And that's a subject we're going to be talking about here today, you guys. That there's a story that you were so brave to share a few weeks ago, and when I saw it on your Instagram live, it broke my heart, and few reasons. And one is that I have this incredible kindred spirit with you that I feel like I know you because I watched you on television for so long. And a person of color being in a position that I can say four-time Emmy winner makes me so happy.
Oh, thank you.
And at the same time, that the incident that happened is literally 4 blocks away from my home.
Mm,
And
mm.
that really hurt me. And I wanted you to share a bit of that story here. And I think it's important because that it will inspire so many others out there to be strong like you and be able to share their story.
Thank you. Well, first, before I get started, I believe in giving people their flowers. So, your Sports Illustrated cover was amazing and beautiful and historic and just really, really gorgeous. So, kudos to you for. I guess it's all of the covers that you did, all the
Ah,
photos for it. So just really, really great. Some of my favorites on there, Kate Bach, I love her, and I love Golden Bar Jasmine. I love them, and so it was really, really great to see.
thank you. And over the years, you have interviewed them on your show because I watched it, and it's yes, it's such a great moment for them, and to celebrate inclusivity, celebrate size and age doesn't matter, and it's something that Sports Illustrated has been doing for the last 5 years. That I'm so proud to be part of, because we talk about inclusion a lot during this time, and for me, I've been a champion about inclusion, just not what's in front of me, but what's behind the camera, your entire crew, people you're surrounded by. That's what really starts to make
Ab-
that meter change in our industry.
Absolutely, when people making decisions reflect what society looks like and are diverse and inclusive and truly diverse and inclusive, not just talking about black and white. Um, then that's when we start to see the change that we're all so desperately fighting for right now. But I do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to kind of talk about some of my experiences. I did have a really life changing experience about a year ago, right here in the heart of Hollywood. It's not by any means the first time that I've ever experienced discrimination. Not by any means, and I'm sure it won't be the last. But it was, a cold dose of reality because I was coming from a place where I was on such a high and I was feeling so good about myself and really had had a great day. And all of a sudden, like wham, it just all changed. So it was really an eye opener in that way for me. It was last year, August 6th of 2019. I was coming from interviewing America's favorite, Oprah Winfrey, and also America's eye candy, Michael B. Jordan. I was coming from interviewing the both of them. Michael had a new show that was debuting on Oprah's network called David Makes Man, and so I was interviewing the both of them. Um, at the premiere of the television series, and it was at the New House in Hollywood. And if people live out here in Southern California, they know it's right there on Sunset, right in the heart of Hollywood. Like on Pretty Woman, what's your dream? Everybody in Hollywood, everybody has a dream. I always think about that when I'm in the heart of Hollywood. I think about that moment in that film. And so I was leaving from there, and I was going home. And I it just really, it's a great day when you see Oprah, and a great day when you and Michael B get to vibe. And I got great interviews with them, and Oprah was so lovely and just loving, and so I felt really good. And I admittedly was feeling a little sassy because I just gotten a little convertible. So I was like, oh, well, how about this? I'm gonna drive home with the top down and be real cute. So I started driving down Sunset Boulevard, and when I was about to pass Sunset Gower Studio, a car pulled out in front of me and cut me off, and so I had to slam my brakes on to stop from running into the car. And when I looked up, there were, I saw this guy had his finger, giving me the middle finger, had his finger out the window. And I'm like, oh, really? When that happens and you're automatically irritated and you're just like, oh, I mean, really, guy, come on. So we were both going to the light. We both got to the light at pretty much the same time. They were in the turning lane and I was in the lane right beside them. And I looked over and just kind of gave a shrug, like, what was that for? And they started screaming, F you, F you. And I'm like, what? There were 4 guys in the car. I couldn't really make out the 2 in the back, but the 2 in the front I could see really well. And so they started screaming, F you, F you. And I was like, and I said, F me, F you. You're the one who cut me off, right? And so all of a sudden, the guy in the passenger seat rolls down the window and they're both screaming, F you, and he spits on my car. And I was like, what? So I started screaming, are you crazy? Are you effing crazy? And so the driver starts screaming, like the N-word, just hard, just screaming it, right? And I automatically was like, what is happening here? What is happening? And so I am, I like to think that I'm pretty quick on my feet, but when something like that happens, it just really like mollywopped me, so I didn't really even know what to say. I think I just kept repeating. I was in a little bit of a haze, but I think I just kept repeating like, what? And so the guy in the passenger seat then leans out, opens the door, gets out, spits on me in the car, and starts screaming, the N-word over and over again. At that point, like a crowd had begun to form a little bit because they were screaming so loud and I was screaming back like, what? And a woman drove up in an SUV. It was a white woman, I remember, because it is what got me out of my haze. And she drove up and like pulled in and behind me, and she starts out her window saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I like snapped out of my haze when that happened. And the guys, I think they noticed that a crowd was kind of forming and they were getting a lot of attention, so they just took off in their car. And the only thing I could think about at that point was I have to get their driver's license, and so I just took off after them, and started following them and started calling 911 to report what had happened. And when I finally got through to 911, which was kind of difficult getting through to the Hollywood station, I kept getting routed to different places. But when I finally got through and I was reporting it, they told me to stop following them once I'd given them the license plate, to stop following them, and that I needed to come and report it. They told me that I needed to come down to the Hollywood station and file a report because we were out of the area, because I was following them, like trying to get, and they were driving like trying to get on the 101 freeway in Hollywood. And they actually didn't get on the freeway because they saw me following them, and I was like on their tail, so they were trying to get away from me so I couldn't get their license plate information. And so once the police told me to stop following them, I did. And I pulled over the side of the road, and I think that's when it really hit me what had just happened. And I had a massive breakdown on the side of the road. I mean, shaking and crying and just really kind of everything sitting in that I had just really been the victim of what I consider to be a hate crime. And it was something unlike I had never experienced before. It just wasn't. And it more so, I grew up in rural Missouri, so I've heard a lot. My neighbors call Black people colored until now, and but it was like the vitriol that they were saying it with, and the force that they were saying it with, and I admit I was afraid as well. I was afraid of what was happening or what would have happened, and thankfully I was in an area like the heart of Hollywood and not in a desolate area, because you never know what could have happened.
When these men got out of their car, approached you, what gave you the strength to still follow them? Because that must have been a crazy situation. And I will share that sentiment because this something similar happened to me. I've never shared and never talked about until you just mentioned it. And it's somebody that's pushed my car in the same fashion. But where at that moment when something like that happens, your adrenaline takes over,
Yeah.
right? You completely just take over and you forget the situation where you're at and you build up this armor. And it takes so much strength to still hold on to that steering wheel and drive and follow them. And so I, I concur. Um, it is.
Yeah, I think it was adrenaline, but I also think, I'm a journalist. And, at the end of the day, we are supposed to get the story, get the information, make sure we have the facts. And I think that kicked in as well because the only thing I knew to be able to identify them at all was to get a license plate number.
And was that information able to help you capture the people?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I did go and report the crime at the Hollywood police station, and they took my information. They assigned a detective to the case. I did ask them to consider it a hate crime. They told me that because there had been some sort of near traffic accident before all of this, they didn't think that the courts would consider it a hate, because what they generally look at as hate crimes is if someone just walked up to you out of the blue and started calling you the N-word and assaulted you, which I think is ridiculous, but that was the explanation that I was given. They did find the driver. Several months later, the detective on the case came to my office with a photo lineup for me to pick out the driver. I'll never forget his face, and I picked him out immediately.
Wow.
But they also then told me, because I had the license plate, that really kind of was, it led them to the person who owned the car. And that person would then have to cooperate with police to identify the other people in the car. Now, if that's his buddy, chances are he wasn't going to do that. And the other thing is, he technically didn't commit a crime because he never touched me. Calling someone nigger is not a crime.
That's insane. It's crazy to me. It is insane and crazy to me. Did you have your phone? Did you have your camera phone with you? Were you able to snap any photos?
I was driving, and I snapped photos of, which, this is not the smartest thing to do, and I would not advise anyone to do it. But when I was driving after them, I had my phone up, and I was snapping pictures of them in front of me, trying to get a photo of the license plate. So I do have photos of the car. I didn't have my phone when I was, being assaulted. I think it was, and hindsight is 2020, and of course I wish I would have done that. I think I was just so in the moment, and it was so very violent, verbally violent. I wasn't thinking grab your phone, and I don't drive with my phone like right with me. So it wasn't like I just could grab it and it was like in my purse or something. So it wasn't like I could just grab it and have it out. Cause this is the last thing I ever thought would happen. So, it just wasn't something that I thought about. But I will say this, I usually travel with, and I get this from my mother and my grandmother, with a baseball bat or a golf club right by my seat, just because.
Yeah.
I've always been taught, as a woman, a single woman, I'm alone a lot of the time, and in different places at different times and all hours of the day and night. So I always do that. This was a new car. I'd had it for like 3 days, and I didn't have anything there. And I was telling someone the other day, if I did, they wouldn't have had any windows in their car, and probably would have gotten swinging at the car. I was that enraged. And I was. It was a really emotional night. After that all happened, I felt so dirty and disgusting. Someone had spit. That's like the lowest form of low, spitting on you. And I remember being in the shower for about an hour that night, just trying to scrub it off of me and just feeling like, you know, I just wanted to get it off. Um, but of course, we know it's a deeper pain, like, you know, that you're just trying to rid yourself of.
With this incident happened, it must sit within you for so long. You
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
share it for very long. What was it that moment that you realized that this has been rooted so deep that it's affecting you that it's time to tell the story?
But I think that just the state of the country that we're in and what was going on, the voices that were standing up and speaking out for change, um, the events of the day, you know, people standing up and taking to the streets in memory of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and what they had gone through. I still heard voices, not a lot of them, but still heard voices trying to explain it away. You know, like, oh, well, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or they were doing something they weren't supposed to be, or something. So because of that, it started to infuriate me, and I thought, you know, there are a lot of people who I wouldn't call them racist, but I think they are prejudiced, who like to explain things away because it lets them off the hook. You know, it lets you off the hook if you can have some sort of like answer for this bullshit. Like it lets you off the hook, right? So I thought there's so many people who watch me on television every night. There's so many people who feel connected with me in that way. You know, I'm a Black girl who grew up on a pig farm in rural Missouri. So if I tell my story of racism and intolerance, then maybe they will look at me, somebody who they feel like they trust, who they see every night, who they feel like is a neighbor or a friend in their head, and they hear this coming from me, then maybe that will sit with them in a way that it didn't before and let them know that these things happen. They aren't made up. You can't explain it away. And because of something that may have happened in your past or where you were at the time, it does not make it right. It does not make it okay. So I just felt like I really needed to speak up and speak out about it, for that reason mostly. And also, you know, I tried to let the justice system run its course and tried to let the LAPD, you know, do what they needed to do. And because I didn't feel like I was getting any justice through the legal system, I also felt like I needed to start using my voice and my platform to talk about what happened. So that's really the reason I did it.
And I'm so grateful you did that because, you know, as an Asian American and culturally, that there are lots of similarity with the Black cultures and family is so important. And we're taught to just not get in trouble, just blend in if you can, right? And I know from my Black friends have tell me that mom just said, you get out there, do what you have to do to make sure you come home safe and you survive one day at a time. Mm-hmm. For our culture is that you go out there and you put your head down, don't make people look at you, don't create any noise, just work really hard, become a doctor or a lawyer, and be successful, and that's how you win. But through this time, we're like in this boiling, crazy stew with all the impurities coming to the surface. Mm-hmm. And people are using this time to relinquish things that we know racism been brewing in them. And because they have, because the people in charge are saying certain things like Kung flu, therefore, it's okay for everybody out there to start throwing those words of anger. And when you told the story, and I didn't share, no one knows this other than my assistant. This similar thing happened to me about 8 years ago. Again, same thing, traffic merging. You know, we came to side. This white man, bald, he looked at me, he rolled down the window. You know, whatever word that you can pick out of any racial words for Asian people, he named them all. And I was just like, being a good Asian and take my hand together and just say, I am so sorry. Whatever it is, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Because it was heavy traffic, he was able to pull in front of me. The car came to a dead stop. He got out of the car while people were still moving slowly past me and beat down my window and just kicking it and kicking it. And I was shaking and I didn't have a phone that had a camera on it because I was like, I'm not going to camera phone. I don't need a camera phone. Well, after that day, I did. And what scared me the most was that I'm screaming for help where the car just kept moving and just kept moving. And when you told your story that this man came toward you, it came flashing back in my memory. And it made me realize that those things are rooted in you.
Yeah.
It may not hurt you then or later. It is there, that fear. And when you talked about the injustice of the system, this is how crazy it was. I didn't think of it until you told the stories that when I did the same thing you did. I followed them. I got their license plate. I pull over and I sit down on the side of the freeway and vomit for 2 hours. I could not get back in my car and drive. I had to call my brother. I said, "Listen, talk me through driving home." It was because I thought my life was in danger. I mean, my car was
Well,
totally
your
beat.
life was in danger. It's not
And
what
my
you
car was
thought.
completely beaten. The door had to be replaced. So when I got home, I said, I talked to the police when I was driving. They told me to pull over, don't follow them. You got the license plate. Same thing happened. They gave me a lineup. They gave me a lineup of 6 people who look almost identical to the description I described. And I literally looked at the officer who was white as white can be, and I said, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" I described to the T because I'm an artist. I can describe to the T of the person, what he's wearing, his height. I can probably sketch the person out, but new line every single person up with exactly the same mustache, the same bald head, same shirt that I described to you in a police report, and you asked me to identify them. This is not Where's Waldo. I'm not playing a game here. But so justice did not get taken care of. However, through friends who was in the service system, and I was able to figure out this guy's address. And I had the opportunity to go to his house and just beat down those windows with a bat like you said earlier. I didn't do it. I thought, no, it's fine. I'm better than this. I can move on. But you know what? When you told that story, I realized that is the problem. We don't talk about it enough.
Right.
We don't share enough. So your bravery of sharing that story impacted me to the core and through the pain.
I think because people in marginalized communities and people of color know the everyday occurrences of it happening. So we don't talk about it because we're like, well, yeah, this happens. It happens all the time. It happens, and I've gotten that feedback a lot. I mean, I have had an outpouring of support, which I really appreciate from all corners, and all types of people. But I have, especially from African Americans, gotten, yeah, this happens every day. Welcome to the world, sis. It does, and it's really shameful.
It is shameful, and I'm so proud to see when I look outside when the protest or the march that happens, when the Asian Americans can stand solidarity with Black community, because from culturally these two worlds did not merge well together for years and years, and I am so proud to be able to say I am part of the color community and be recognized by the color community that I'm part of the color community, and that is so important because it then changes the paradigm how I can make a difference within all our society and the people around us. And the biggest reason for me to be here and talking to you is so I hope that other Asian people, other people who have been told culturally stay quiet, is not to stay quiet any longer. And I hate to say this, but your phone is your most powerful tool right now.
Oh, now it is. Absolutely, it
and
is.
You
Absolutely,
captured,
it is.
right?
Yeah.
I literally have my phone on the side. I have 2 phones now. One, I have one phone sitting on the side, and I'll just record because there are times I feel like this is scary.
Yeah.
In the early of this period, 3 months ago, I was wearing masks before the government said it's okay because Asian culture, we started wearing masks immediately when we heard there was stuff going on in Asia. And in fact, the show was about raising money to buy masks for the first responders. But during the first month, I thought I was gonna get my ass kicked. So it turned to like, let's just not leave my house. Let's make best friend with Amazon and start ordering stuff. And I just never leave my home. And for my family as well, I was like, listen, guys, this is not no joke. You guys gotta stay put. We'll lock all my aunties and moms about the same age in the same house and quarantine them because it is scary, it is dangerous. And I still hear from my assistant who's Thai, just called me yesterday, said, I'm in a supermarket and this man refused to wear a mask and purposely stands so close to me. And I said to her, did you take a picture of him? Did you record it? She goes, not worth my time. I go, yes, it is worth your time now. We can't be silent. And that means Asian community, Black community, a community that's been marginalized. I think that's the only way we're going to make change because the Black community has been silent for too long and now is rising and you're taking all of us with you. So I couldn't be happier and champion for the movement.
Well, you and I have talked about this a little bit, but I also think that it's especially important for the Asian community and the Black community to come together and heal what has historically been a really fractured relationship.
Yes.
Um, because I think when we do merge, it's a very powerful community that you form, and I mean that's something that I right now am actively, you know, looking at and working towards healing. I think that the relationship between Black women and white women is a place where you really have to start too, because it's a very tenuous and fractured situation as well. Not a lot of trust there at all, as well as with the Asian community and the Black community, which is a shame because our communities, our stories, our history blends so much. And so, we've got to start healing there and coming together there.
Absolutely. And especially both of in the career of arts. And because in nature is so competitive and so little space are available for us. And I can say this as for my own personal journey that fighting to be on television or fighting to be on a show or fighting to be shooting a cover of a magazine. And you are looking over your shoulder going, is there somebody else like me going to get that job? If he gets that job, will you get that job? Right. And only way I could not have those feelings is years ago I chose and made a decision that I will celebrate Asian community. I will force to put myself in that and bring all my friends who are Asian to work with me when they don't get the opportunity, right? But that's what I feel that the Black community needs to do, right? I am so honored to have the career I have, and I said this before. If it wasn't for Essence Magazine, who lets me have back to back to back of covers and be educated by people like Taraji P. Henson and Janet Jackson, who literally gives me lessons about being in the Black community and being in the world, without knowing then that through this time, there was a moment I had to sit back and go, holy shit, I'm here because I am color, and they embrace me, and we need to work together because we don't. I'm sorry to say that white privilege will keep control and demand what they want, and we all continue to be marginalized because
Right.
it's okay to have two Asian people on the same network. It should be.
Yes,
It's okay.
We can all eat. But it really heartens me to hear you also give propers to publications like Essence and whatnot, and those Black publications that often give people their start, often take chances on.
But can I tell you, Nishelle, you wouldn't believe is that when I was shooting for Essence Magazine, the white publications, and you know who they are, and if you're listening, you know who you are guilty of, would not hire me because, oh, he's shooting for the Black community magazine. So that's considered secondary. You're in the entertainment business, there's a classism. And I told my agent that bring those on, bring all the magazines that people think is marginalized. I will shoot them. And guess what? When I shot Janet Jackson, when I shoot Taraji P. Henson, years later, when they're doing a campaign, they're doing an album, guess who they're going to call? They celebrated me for being there with them, and they remember it, and they do. And I do have to say that the war in our industry is starting to shift, and I hope entertainment industry is starting to do the same. We have Lindsay People Wagner, who is the editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue magazines. And I'm so proud to say I'm the first person she hired to shoot for that cover when she took position. And I cried because I wrote that off years ago, like, oh, it's never going to happen, right? And when she called, when I met her in person, I said, why me? She goes, you're one of us. That's all she had to say. And I just, I'm like a little baby. I just started crying because because we worked really hard to to blend in and then try to figure out how to stand out, right? You gotta blend in and stand out, and blend in and stand out. And people like her, people like Marie Claire, editor in chief, now it's a Japanese woman, Aya, who I worked with at Cosmo for years, are in her position. And I wrote her the other day, I said, you're doing an amazing job. She goes, oh my God, this is the hardest work. I go, guess what? You stay there and work hard because we need you there. It's so important. And we need you, Nischelle, to be there telling stories and I will say thank you because there've been few stories that you talked about me. So I feel like we already met through the television world that has crossed over a few times.
Each other and lift up each other and really, fight for representation
Thank
in
you.
whatever corner of the world that we occupy. I've actually had some people recently say, well, what do you do for your community? What do you do? And I'm like, number one, I don't have to shout about it because I know the fight that I have every single day for representation. I believe images matter. I'm in a business where, you know, we have some control over what people consume at home, and I take responsibility seriously. I'm gonna fight like hell every single day to see true diversity and inclusion in those images, and it hasn't always been worked or been easy. It's not easy now, but you know, so those are when you can fight in whatever area you're in, because you know, people say now, and I think it's so true, it's not enough anymore to not be racist. You have to be actively anti-racist.
Can I
actively?
I love that. And the lesson I learned through this, and I said this before, and it's pointing to mention again for those who have not heard before. As a photographer, people always ask me, how do you approach your shoots? Oh, you shoot this color person, shoot this white people, you shoot Latin, you shoot everyone. How do you get the opportunity to do that? And 3 months ago, I would tell people this because I show up on set as a colorblind photographer. I look at every person's individual, who they are, and I celebrate them, period. But it wasn't until a Black assistant actually said this to me. He says, "You are wrong." I go, "What do you mean I'm wrong? I'm telling you, I'm not racist. I celebrate everybody who they are." He goes, "But you're not celebrating their color. You have to know when a Black woman is standing in front of you, she's Black woman, a Black man. She's a leading man." And oh my God, can I tell you, it was like
an insult, if I'm being honest, to the people that are listening, when you say to a person of color, and I know that it's well-meaning, I don't see color. Because my point is, well, why the hell not? Because I do. Like, see me, celebrate me. Yes, I'm a Black woman. You better freaking believe it. And I want you to see me. When you say you don't see color, that's when it's also easy to marginalize somebody. No, see me. All the texture of my
all
head,
of it,
all my broad nose and my big eye. See me. You know what I mean?
I had to. But Nischelle, I had to come to a realization why I said that, because I wanted people not see my color.
Yeah.
And because I'm supposed to be invisible.
Was there? I was gonna say, yeah. Why do you think you didn't want people to see your color?
You know, first of all, I don't look Taiwanese. So in my own Taiwanese community, even if I speak Mandarin in Chinese restaurant, it becomes an argument like, how do you speak Mandarin perfectly? And so it becomes a thing. And then when you're growing up in Asia and your skin is dark like mine, you're deemed to be the poor person's kid, that you're in the field working. So there's a classism that happens, right? So, and then, right? And then when I begin to work in front of television, then you start being nervous. I mean, I do a lot of Asian television, and they would put makeup on me and make me 2 shades lighter, right? So this is all building up. It wasn't until somebody like Tyra Banks, like, you be you and you show up and be you. And that's when it changes. Again, a Black woman celebrating my skin color that I didn't realize. So no, it's not okay any longer for me to say I'm colorblind. And I, because of that, it made me realize that I am responsible to celebrate my skin color. I'm responsible to scream on the mountaintop about Asian American heritage and how important it is. It doesn't matter they accept me or not. I need to accept myself first. And that's a journey that we're on. And you said earlier about seeing you and celebrate you, and people say, well, what do you do? And the funny thing, this image came to my mind, but we're talking about Jasmine Sander on the cover of Sports Illustrated. We had this conversation. When I was shooting her, this conversation happened about inclusion, and I said, listen, what are you going to bring? And she said this, don't touch my hair.
That's right.
It was amazing. She goes, this, it's me. So everything else, you dress me, you make whatever. This tells you who I am. So that's why the cover, oh, I have chills. That's why that cover is so special and so beautiful, because it was each one of those women celebrating who they were, and her being in the middle just speaks so much what this magazine's about and what I am part of this journey, that I couldn't be more proud. And she owns that every moment. And she is as beautiful on the outside as she is on the inside. Absolutely.
Well, I loved it. Like I said, and I don't want to leave out Olivia, because she is as beautiful and as gorgeous as Kate and Jasmine. And you know, I thought it was an iconic.
Thank you.
You know, I liken it back to those Tyra Sports Illustrated covers that we all loved, and where we felt as women of color seen for one of the very first times in that magazine. So.
Oh. And sizes. So those guys have not picked out the magazine. That some people are like, what do you mean inclusion? 3 girls are skinny. I go, Wait till you see what's on the inside. 55-year-old woman, Kathy Jacob. I got to shoot her. You should see how excited she was on the beach. And then Hunter McGrady, the true plus size that owns everything about herself.
Yeah.
And
who says in the beauty industry that plus size is a size 12? Who says that? That's crap.
You know, through this talk and through these conversations, it's been an incredible opportunity to even talk to makeup artists and also makeup companies, just to bring awareness to them that it's not just 8 shades of brown. It should be about 56 shades of brown. Because or talking to fashion designer, thing, oh, nude. When you say nude, well, that nude doesn't work on that woman because that nude is not her nude. So those are the positive things.
Band-Aid brands.
Well, I love your voice in this business. I love the fact that you celebrate it all. And I love the fact that you are, in your way, the most gracious way, calling people out, because that's what we need to do for each other. That's what we all need to do. And I want to leave you with this. We are going to get together and eat, because you and I share a really good friend.
Oh, that's nothing but a word. Come on.
I want to have to cook for you. I didn't know you're really good friends with my friend Yanni Kim.
Oh, that's my baby girl. Yes.
I was at her house last week, and my godson and her kids are around the same age. So every other Sunday, I bring them over there to play. And I stood there with her, and we talked about a lot of Asian American injustice. I've been going through some stuff as personal that I just can't find that strength, and also just, discovering the process. And I said, well, next week I'm a little nervous. She goes, why are you nervous? You've been doing this talk, and I go, well, Nichelle's coming out to say something that is not just painted words and color by numbers. She's going to share her story. She goes, Nischelle Turner. She's like, let me text her. I'm like, what? What do you mean, let me text her? She goes, she's one of my girls. And I go, oh my God, Yanni, and she made me feel so comfortable to be here with you, because I do absolutely look up to you as a journalist, as an entertainment reporter, and for everything that you represent. I mean, listen, you interview Oprah. and your smile. Thank you for having your curly hair, and thank you for celebrating. Thank you for your strength, and allow me to heal with you.
Thank you. And I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on and chatting. And it's always good to share stories and to get at the root of it. And I do feel like that we're in a space now where we can have a lot of really open, honest, and raw conversations, and we're hearing each other more and more than we ever have. So I appreciate that, and I really do appreciate this time, and for the people who follow you to take the time and listen to me. So it's meant a lot.
Thank you so much. Until we see each other again in front of an amazing feast, because that's going to happen.
What we going to eat?
So we're going to get tested, you're negative, you're on. Let's go over there.
I can't wait. All right, my love.
Thank you so much. Let's talk. Some days that we get to heal, Sunday we get to celebrate, and today we get to do both. Thank you so much, Nischelle Turner. I didn't even remember the story of my own experience about this incident that happened to me, and it really was cathartic to be able to share that moment with her, and for her to help me heal. And truly it's about having the strength to tell your story. And for those out there who are Asian Americans, people out there that skin of color, with any injustice that's set on you, one thing you do have is your phone, and you have the platform. Tell those stories and make them aware, because we can no longer hide under rocks and say those things are okay. The more we voice our opinions, the more we share the injustice out there, that more we can make a difference and move that meter of balance. All we're asking for is fairness and equal opportunity. Nobody's asking for it to be more privileged and treated any different in this process. So guys out there, please be kind with each other. Please be safe out there. We're still going through a tough time. Along the way, celebrate each other and celebrate our skin colors. Thank you so much for being with me here today. And I'll be back again tomorrow. This is Yu Tsai. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.